Dear attendees, welcome to the fireside chat with industry thought leaders from ATN and Mauritech. Today, the industry experts will discuss the need and necessity of RPA adoption within the telecommunication sector. We are streaming live on YouTube, and you will find the link in the chat window. Please feel free to share in your professional network. As we wait for a few more guests to join in, let us watch this video.
With legacy systems and manual processes, telcos have witnessed shrinking revenues. To revive and achieve competitive differentiation, RPA and cognitive technologies help telcos achieve transformational benefits including greater automation and flexibility, governance, risk, and compliance, getting future-ready, gearing digitally enabled workforce, growth and enhanced collaboration. Learn how telcos optimize network maintenance and back-office work for enhanced customer experience. Join us for a fireside chat on Hyperautomation in Action, Unleashing the New Era of Telco Customer Experience.
Hi, I'm Sumedha Sengupta, responsible for marketing content development, and I will be the host for today's virtual session. To set the premise for our fireside chat, it will be an interactive session where we discuss telecom applications for intelligent automation. We would focus on the broader aspects of RPA and hyperautomation in telecom and the opportunities these technologies provide to transform operational processes and significantly enhance the quality of customer service offerings. A quick announcement before we start with the session. All the attendees are eligible for a 1 to 2 week complimentary RPA assessment workshop organized by Mauritech. Also, during the session, we will be conducting 3 poll rounds of 1 minute each. We would appreciate 100% participation. So before we start, it is my pleasure to introduce the panel members present in today's session. Firstly, we have Nitin Chopra, Vice President, Information Technology at ATN International. He's responsible for shaping and driving the technology strategy and go-to-market solutions across the ATN network. He has a rich blend of over 25 years of operations and business transformation experience working with large multinational companies from different sectors. Along with him, we have Kelly Moore, compliance strategist at ATN International. She's a specialist leader at ATN, implementing large-scale compliance programs and managing regulatory obligations. Kelly has several diversified years of experience working with regulatory compliance, enterprise risk management, and crisis and resiliency management. Thirdly, we have Mayuri Darabastu, Associate Director, Robotic Process Automation and Quality Engineering at Mauritech. She is an accomplished technology leader who has been instrumental in driving the digital transformation journey with automation at Mauritech. She has over 16 years of experience in automating high volume business processes, and throughout her automation delivery experience, Mayuri has worked with various automation technologies, including robotic process automation, optical character recognition, intelligent character recognition, and self-service data analytics to solve client challenges. A very warm welcome to all three of you. I really appreciate your time and interest to join us in today's forum. With that, we move to the first poll round. On your screen, you can see a question with multiple answers. Please choose the option that you think fits best. Request all the attendees to participate. Thank you for sharing your responses. Now, let's get into the actual discussion. Welcome everyone to the fireside chat. We are all set to talk about telco's future of automation and the future of work. But before we indulge in deep conversation about RPA transforming the telecommunication vitals, I have Nitin here today who would help us understand the challenges telcos faced during the lockdown and how they explored RPA and AI-powered automation to improve customer experience and business efficiency. Over to you, Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sumedha. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody joining us on this fireside chat. Thank you so much to Mori Tech for hosting us. I know we've been talking about this for a while. Glad to be here today. I'll start with a little bit about ATN first. ATN International is a publicly traded company that has been investing in communications for the last 30 years, over 30 years across the globe. We are a leading provider of communication services by which we digitally empower people and connect the communities across the world. Our focus is primarily on underbuilt, underserved markets where there is a growing demand and need for fast and reliable communications. We own and operate various telco assets in the US, in our rural communities here, in the Caribbean, South America, and we had a recent acquisition in Alaska. So that's about ATN, just to set some context. Getting back to the question you asked, Sumedha, about lockdowns and pandemic, no matter what part of the world you were in, everybody, all businesses experienced a lot of hardships in the last 2.5 years. In the beginning of the pandemic, overnight, we had our store closures. There was no person-to-person interaction in the office space. All call center, all support staff moved to working from home. At that point, companies like ours really needed to pivot and improve time to market and our CX solutions. We all know by now, customer service is beyond just answering phone calls. We needed to meet our customer via the channels that they are using that is best for them. Things like WhatsApp, things like chat, things like websites, forms. That's where RPA, or robotic process automation, really helped us bridge the gap between various platforms we had. We were able to process requests, resolve issues in record time, all by leveraging RPA. You can just imagine the kind of business we are in, the volume of requests that went through the roof when the whole world moved to working from home. Just the sheer volumes of broadband requests went through the roof. So that's really where RPA came into play, along with some AI-powered ID checks to basically take away the human interaction. It came to resolving issues. I would say net during the pandemic, especially in the early part of the pandemic, RPA came in as a savior for us in those hard times to help digitize, speed our time to market. That's probably where my head's at. That's my view. Let's see, Kelly, what you have to say on the same topic.
Thanks, Nitin. Due to the pandemic, people were having to suddenly work from home or attend school virtually. As Nitin already mentioned, ATN seeks to provide service to underserved areas, so not everyone had internet access or the speed needed to handle the workload and those pesky virtual meetings that we've since become the norm. In January of 2020, we had just gone live with RPA. The first 3 processes we started with were actioning new service requests from customer requests. Pre-RPA, a request for new service would have taken weeks, if not months, to provision due to the backlog and time that it took for a human to process the request. When the lockdowns happened, we were able to handle the new request for service within a matter of hours. Without RPA, I wouldn't even want to imagine how long it would have taken new service requests to have been provisioned during that time. Because as you've seen, since the pandemic started, there have been shortages in staffing all over. Having these three processes and others automated has helped the business move forward during this time instead of being at a standstill and waiting for a human to complete the task. Mary, do you have more to add?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Nitin and Kelly, for your interesting insights. So as you rightly mentioned, the consequence of the pandemic we all have witnessed more than ever, telecom providers need to adapt their services to meet the requirements of the customers in terms of both quality and also the affordability. So taking advantage of these emerging technologies has been critical to the business response, and RPA is providing a recession-proof savior for the business continuity. Since the telecom industry is based on a lot of repetitive rule-based processes, which are managing high volume of data, automating them with the help of RPA could solve majority of the challenges. The software robots are equipped to perform all the mundane jobs of an employee faster and more effectively, allowing them to handle more strategic activities. RPA can be easily and quickly integrated into an existing system at a minimal cost, helping industries to remain operational in any circumstance. As per the recent survey from the Gartner, RPA software market is one of the fastest growing segments in the enterprise software market. It is expected to reach over $3 billion by 2024 on back of double-digit growth rates. In the pandemic, as Nitin and Kelly rightly suggested, RPA was a key factor for growth for any kind of telecom industry. Specifically, when it comes to AT&I, we have multiple use cases and success stories to talk about, like customer support, billing, invoicing, customer management, wherein we have leveraged hyperautomation. We have automated various use cases for support, wherein software robots can be used to basically interact with the customers, especially for any request that comes through the website route or IVR. The request raised by the customers shall be handled end-to-end by the bot, considering all the validations that includes the acknowledgement back to the customers, along with the audit trails maintained for the business continuity. In the segment of customer management, telecom companies deal with a lot of personal information about the customers. So managing it manually could be a nightmare, as it has a high potential to commit an error. Moreover, these processes of the customer onboarding with KYC validations requires a lot of information to be gathered and constantly updated into the CRM systems, which is tedious and monotonous in nature. So RPA can be leveraged to manage end-to-end business processes from the stage wherein the new customer signs a contract, and also to the stage where the data from the CRM systems is being terminated or erased when the customer no longer wants to use the service. Billing and invoice processes is another function where the software robots can perform any kind of accounts receivable, payments related processes with reduced risk of errors. High availability and increased efficiency and lower operational costs are the other benefits that we can talk about. We will talk in depth about a few more use cases later in our conversation, but I would take a pause and hand it over back to you, Sumedha, to take this further. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your inputs. Okay, truly, RPA automates transactional work to empower valuable labor and improve operational efficiency. With that, we move to the second poll round. On your screen, you can see a question with multiple answers. Please choose the option that you think fits best. Request all the attendees to participate. Thank you for sharing your responses. Coming back to the discussion, I would like to go to you, Kelly. So Kelly, as we know, robotic process automation is being adopted by various industries to improve compliance, and the telecom industry is no different. Would you like to summarize how automation has helped telcos modernize complex processes and operations at scale?
Sure, thank you. Thinking of the processes that have been in production for a while, what we initially did was take the exact process the human was doing step by step and automate those steps. However, working on processes during implementation and even after it's implemented, we saw where improvements could be made that would make it easier for the customer as well as reduce the number of exceptions that occurred, such as missing information from the customers. By clarifying the information provided to the bot, it was able to provision requests without human interaction, zero touch, or having to contact the customer for more information. From a compliance perspective, and I may be a little too transparent here, Nitin, but my boss asked me to get my compliance tasks automated, and I would think about each one and then offer a reason why it couldn't be automated. There's one specific task that takes me roughly about 3 hours a week to complete. Because of all of the nuances included in the process, I thought it required human intervention. So we brought in another set of eyes to review the process and see the possibilities that I couldn't see. Since then, we've been able to figure out how the process could be automated. And I'm happy to say that I'm anxiously awaiting for the process to be implemented so that the RPA bot can handle those tasks from here on out. And now we have to look at other tasks, how they can be. Samita?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'd like to just comment on one quick thing here. We talked about compliance use cases, or even using RPA to process some customer requests. These are critical things to a business like ours. So question keeps coming up around what are we doing to keep an eye on these software bots, and now we are to a point where we are exploring I think it's an industry concept of doctor bots, which are bots that watch the bots in a way that we have an end-to-end, not just automation in place, but also the right amount of oversight. So should something get missed by a bot, technical issues, etc., there is a backup that catches that. So just another element I thought to pitch in there.
Thank you for sharing your inputs. Yes, we all agree RPA bots have streamlined complex processes and modernized legacy systems. Moving forward, there are a lot of interesting conversations coming up about automation. Please stay tuned as we unfold the next level of discussions. Now, I would go to Mayuri. Mayuri, this question is explicitly for you. Can you briefly walk us through Mauditech's strategic partnership with ATN in its automation journey?
Certainly, Sumedha. So Mauditech has been instrumental in deploying bots to support crucial business processes in order to meet the demand, intensify the efficiency, and of course, to implement the new business models. Mauditech has been a strategic technology implementation partner for AT&I with respect to varied service enablement programs. And specifically when it comes to area of RPA, we have embarked our journey with the process automation and then evangelized into intelligent automation or hyperautomation. Our journey with AT&I was predominantly emphasized on 4 key factors. The first factor being understanding the opportunities and moving early. By taking the advantage of RPA and AI and assessing the opportunity, we have identified the high impact use cases, laying out the capability and governance groundwork. Followed by our second step is to balance quick tactical wins with a long-term vision. We have identified the quick wins to automate activities with high automation potential and also radiate out by freeing up the capital by reducing the overall operational cost. In parallel, we also worked on the long-term vision of comprehensive transformation. As step 3, we have redefined our processes. Since 60% of all jobs have at least 30% of technically automatable activities, redefining the jobs, taking an end-to-end business process view were given the priority to capture the value. And as a final step to integrate the technology into the core business function, we introduced AI and other technologies in operating model to create the transformative impact that lasts long. And also we have streamlined the processes of collecting and analyzing data to project the meaningful insights. Not only these, we have built a muscle for continuous improvement in order to take care of the end-to-end process. On this note, I wanted to share a couple of insights on few functions or areas where we have leveraged hyperautomation. The first area that I would like to talk about was customer fulfillment, wherein we have automated use cases with respect to customer onboarding. As Nitin and Kelly were quoting, so onboarding a new customer would comes with a lot of documentation that would come into picture, which is maintaining a KYC. And also there is a tedious job that is updating the CRM at a regular intervals in order to make sure that the information is intact. So that was the first use case that we have attempted. And the other important element of any customer service providing company is to make sure that we have adequate customer communication. So we have also automated multiple use cases wherein we were able to send automatic email acknowledgements to the customers after onboarding, or whether an acknowledgement in terms of resolving a service request, or maybe any billing or other invoicing related query would be resolved. And another segment which is very important that I wanted to talk about is cost center operation, wherein we have operated the ticket management and query resolution. Here, basically the bot resolves the customer queries in quickest and most contextual manner by aggregating data across varied applications. Another important aspect for the customer support is all about helping the customer service agents to get the information routed appropriately. So telecom is one such industry which deals with multiple legacy and different kinds of networking applications. So deriving data from these applications and routing them to a single dashboard have definitely reduced the overall weight and have improved the agent and customer experience. Also, I can quote a couple of other examples in area of networking, wherein we have automated business flows pertaining to the network diagnosis. So I'm sure people who belong to telecom are well aware of the term called as GPON, which is Gigabit Ethernet Passive Optical Network, wherein which is the most important term or most frequently used networking term in terms of telecom. We have basically automated use cases around creating billing accounts, the GPON switching, GPON auto validation, wherein the entire network related activities of running certain queries or consolidating the data and passing it on to the application for further processing were handled. And as part of backend operations, as you all know, that RPA stands out very well with respect to compliance processes. We have automated almost more than a dozen applications wherein we have optimized the level of compliance throughout the organization. Not only these, we have automated multiple use cases for optimizing the overall billing and billing cycles of the customers, and also areas like accounts payables, account receivables as such. I will take a pause here and request Nitin to share insights and experience from his perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mayuri. Some good statistics there, especially where you said 30% of processes are automatable. We should definitely look more there. You know, about ATN's partnership with Moritech. ATN is a unique company where we own telco assets around the world, as I mentioned earlier. These are companies with a lot of local employees supported by shared services and hundreds and thousands of customers. So it was very critical for us to have a partner that understands ATN as a company and our technology stack. We've been using Moritech as a strategic partner and all our subsidiaries over the last 3 years for all of our IT portfolio beyond just RPA. So when we were looking to embark on our RPA journey, it just made sense for us to look for them to educate us on RPA, share with us the pros and cons of RPA, which is what we did. We set up an entire ecosystem, almost a lab environment, where we implemented a small yet a high impact use case in late 2018, 2019. And once we proved that worth to the business, we pretty much took off from there. So So just to put a little perspective, some evidence is obviously in the results. I'll share a couple stats. I'll start with one. So in Q1 alone this year, again Q1 2022, the software bot that we've been talking about, RPA, has processed about 2,000 to 3,000 hours worth of transactions. These are hours that our employees would have worked on processing repetitive work. So pretty much the way I look at it, we have given back this much time, 2,000 or 3,000 hours worth of time back to our employees to do higher value tasks. So that's really the proof. This includes anything from back office, front office, customer experience type transactions that are being done by the software bot.
Okay, thanks for sharing the success. On this note, Nitin, I just wanted to ask, what are your perspectives about ATN and its operating companies' adoption of automation at an enterprise level?
Yeah, so ATN operating companies, the concept of RPA or automation really started at a brainstorming after a board meeting at our headquarters late 2018. The focus then, actually the same focus now, was to elevate our digital footprint of our company, drastically reduce the manual work that happens in the front office or back office operations, with a simple goal that we want our employees to take over higher levels of critical decision making while allowing some form of automation and digitization to take over the mundane day-to-day work. That's really all we were after back then. As a publicly traded company, we have a lot of local, international rules and regulations to follow. So once we got a hang of some simple bot processing, we moved that to the next level of AI-based approach, where now we have critical programs that simulate human decision making and pattern matching. We talked about the ID checks earlier, to take the RPA processing power to the next level. The guidance hasn't changed. If it can be automated, it must be automated. That's our mindset right now. We are now running thousands of transactions, pretty much no downtime. Bots can operate 24/7, 365. We put some critical time-sensitive processes to run in the morning time frame. Stuff that can happen back office runs in the evening, overnight time frame. So that's really our mantra right now. All my operating companies are benefiting from some part of software bot and its superpowers. Kelly and team are working diligently on new use cases all the time. Another stat that I noted down for this and share with the folks here. I talked about the hours earlier. I'll talk about transactions now. So 2022, again, just the first quarter this year, we had over 20,000 transactions that were performed by the software bot that touched our customers. What does that mean? That means there were customers looking for new service, had issues in their home, needed service provision to their home. All of these tasks were touched by a bot that our employees could spend doing other high value things. So those are some staggering numbers, I think, and I'd say we're just getting started now.
Thank you for sharing the insights. Thank you, Nitin, for sharing the insights. Indeed, automation has widened the impact of digital workforce transformation. With that, it's time for the third poll question. On your screen, you can see a question with multiple options. Please choose the option that you think fits best. Encourage all the attendees to participate. Thank you for sharing the responses. With the ultimate approach of enabling efficiency, effectiveness, and experiences of the automation initiative, now in this section, we are going to spend the bulk of our time today on the panel to really understand the new opportunities and possibilities automation can bring. We will also deep dive into certain ATN use cases, which Mayuri and Nitin has already touched base to identify the true value. And while we do so, I would request Mayuri to share her perspective about how Mauritech has helped scale and orchestrate the automation capabilities of various business processes at ATN and its operating companies.
Sure. So before we get started and understand how did we scale, we also have to understand the challenges that the telecom industry is facing currently. So driven by the IoT, 5G, edge computing, the utilization of the telecom services is exploding. This particular surgical demand presents the significant revenue opportunity for the communication service providers, but it also poses substantial challenges. So with the large number of users sending massive amounts of data through the networks, telecom companies have found that even the basic organization functions like customer support, order fulfillment are growing increasingly complicated. So in order to meet these challenges, telecom service providers are turning into automation. In fact, telecom is one of the industries with the broadest adoption of RPA at this point of time. Having that said, we will have to take into account a couple of key factors that are needed in order to scale RPA to the enterprise level. The first and foremost being thinking about a bigger picture before getting started. So we all start small and then scale up and then succeed further. So, but the agenda here is to take these small steps, but also having the vision of a bigger picture in mind as to how do we visualize it as a long-term goal. Mauritech has basically helped AT&I to achieve this with two steps approach. One is definitely identifying more opportunities to deploy the bots by achieving the clarity and visibility of the current existing manual processes. And the second one is definitely by prioritizing the business processes that RPA can deliver most ROI. So the processes that can reap the highest ROI. That will help you to decide where to start and where to go next. The second important aspect that we need to definitely emphasize on is connecting your digital workforce with the human workforce. Only when you have this strong connection between your people and the robots, you'll be really able to scale the RPA initiatives and deliver the ROI consistently. And the last one is adopting the technologies that complement RPA. So complementing RPA, maybe I can talk about the business process management or the latest technologies like AI/ML, custom OCR. So RPA coupled up with these technologies will really help to scale up into a next level automation across the organization. Having that said, at AT&I, we have started off with customer service portal. So all the customer service request routing from the website route were the first thing that we have catered to. And the next step proceeding further is that we have worked on new customer acquisition and modify internet services. So there are multiple services a telecom company provides with respect to the landline services, the DSL services, multiple kinds of services. So there will be hundreds and thousands of requests popping out from the customers on a daily basis in order to be catered by the telecom industry. So whenever it comes to collecting the data or resolving a query, hyperautomation plays a very, very vital role. So we have built a cognitive RPA bot to extract the information from various kinds of data sources. So let's say, for example, a user logs in and then tries to raise a request. The same request would be routed through an email, which will be validated by a bot. And then we have also used our in-house custom-built OCR tool here, which is called as DCAP, that is document capture, in order to scrape the data from the unstructured format. So the details may come in multiple formats. So because it's a customer related information, there will be multiple ID proofs, scanned documents, and other documents will be attached as part of the request. So the bot not only takes care of the request, but also takes help of the advanced technologies like custom OCR in order to scan through the information and complete the end-to-end process of business validation. Specifically in this particular use case, we have received an accuracy of more than 95%, and we were successful in reducing the overall effort by 80%. That definitely stands out as a huge success story with respect to one cognitive bot.
I can validate that. I'll just comment on one thing. I think the success story of bot for us, certainly among other things, has been the low failure rates or high success rates. Obviously, is where it has really helped us scale from. We always just started with the 1 up to now about 40-50 processes that are running in production. So I can vouch for that success rate story for sure. Back to you, Mayuri.
Thank you, Nitin. Yeah, and also not only for ATNI, we have also automated a couple of use cases for its other operating companies like VIA. So there are use cases wherein we have automated bots basically to consolidate the information based on the billing cycles. So there are specific scenarios wherein we have to shoot out the pay in advance notifications, and that includes a huge amount of data to be consolidated. So these particular notifications will be sent to the customers via SMS. However, there is information such as the details of the customers, the telephone numbers, and other details that need to be validated and consolidated before it is passed on to the actual engine to process the SMS. So all this backend process of collecting, consolidating, analyzing, and validating the data and passing on to the applications is done through a bot. Another interesting use case is about extracting the information from the payment servers and decrypting the files in order to process the bank payments. That was also a successful user story that we have automated for VIA, which is currently running flawlessly throughout the months and years. And also, I wanted to talk about a specific use case for MMG, wherein we have automated customer validation for onboarding a legitimate customer. So considering the fraudulent actions that are taking place across and considering the cybersecurity and other aspects, there is a definite need in order to avoid such fraudulent actions. And then we are basically customizing a solutions to detect any kind of fraud that happens through the validation of the KYC of the customers before onboarding the customers. Not only onboarding the customers, but post onboarding the customer also, we actually have bot which basically validates the information of the installations and other facilities, and also sends a welcome note to the customers in order to ensure that the customers are appropriately welcomed into the structure. Not only these, we can also talk about multiple compliance related use cases wherein, let's say, for example, there is an organization, and then there will be multiple onboards and offboards that are very frequent for any kind of function. So whenever there is a offboard happening, all the details of the users would needs to be validated, and also we also have to consider what kind of accesses were provided to the user earlier. After the termination, there would be a ticket raised in a service now, and from where the bot would pick the details, validate all the applications, and do the compliance action by removing the access with the respective applications. So I can talk about many more, but I'll take a pause here and pass it over to you, Sumedha.
Thank you for sharing those insights, Mayuri. Truly, RPA cultivates a well-balanced digital workplace where humans and machines work in tandem to achieve the organization's mission. Now, moving over to you, Kelly. So as automation garners more attention in the current business landscape, I would like to understand the transformational changes and best practices an organization can look into while implementing RPA.
Sure. Transformational changes and best practices. Excuse me, while we decided to process, when deciding to process automate a process, I advise to consider what is best practice versus what is reality. For example, in reality, due to staffing bandwidths, process XYZ only gets performed once a week, but best practice is for it to be performed daily. With RPA, you can have that best practice, and if there's a need, you can improve the process. Along those lines, I've encouraged people that have had interest in automating a process to look at the overall process and see where it can be improved upon or changed. Making minor changes to the process isn't a problem after it's been implemented, but before you program the bot is the time to overhaul the process if needed. And the last thing I'll say is that we've also learned that RPA doesn't remove the human element completely, but rather it frees up time for a human or humans to do further analysis or other tasks. Samita?
Thank you. Nitin, your inputs?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about best practices and challenges, you know, the best practice on top of what Kelly already said. I think it's important to have, I would say, a team that is obsessed with automation. We would need the right players in a program like this that is ready to invest time in selecting the right platform that balances time to market and feature set. There are all sorts of programs out there that are claiming to do RPA. We selected UiPath, and I would say a combination of the people, technology has been a game changer for us already, and some early success. In there are lessons learned as well. There is waste and manual processing in every corner. So I would say don't stop looking. There is something to be automated in almost every process within a company, medium size or large size. I mean, RPA. Lastly, I'll say RPA is no longer a thing that you do with one platform. Look at the industry. Like every company, you could talk about Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow. They've all purchased RPA tools and are introducing that in their platform. So it's definitely here to stay, and it's beyond just one platform. Is what I would say.
That's interesting to know. I think telcos have understood the need for intelligent automation and how it can streamline back office operations with true digital agility. Now to the last question, definitely not the least. Nitin, this is for you. Now that ATN has successfully implemented RPA and is enjoying the journey so far, what is the next step for ATN to enhance automation? Are they looking beyond RPA?
Yeah, so next steps for us are a few things. So we have come a long way, like I said earlier, experimenting in a lab to running about 50 processes in production. We are looking to do a few things this year, maybe in the next 12 months. We need to further formalize our intake process as the demand for automation is going through the roof for us. So we, in order to scale properly, we need to have even better processes, a proper financial structure, reporting from UiPath Insights to be able to support what we are planning for the long term. So that's one of the things. To go beyond RPA, we have kind of dipped our toes on the AI side of things. We talked about the ID checking, pattern matching. That's just the beginning. There are more complex use cases in the finance and accounting place. We want to look at the network appliance vendors. If you look at that market, are looking CSPs like us are focusing on building solutions that will deliver network automation. So that's the two. And last, I would say, and not the least, education or continuous education. Last thing I want is for us in IT to try and go faster than our business team. So I'm going to focus heavily this year with Moritech, with UiPath, with our internal team to set up some internal training or educational sessions. So our sales teams, marketing teams, HR, supply chain, you name it, all of them should see the power of RPA trigger some thoughts and opportunities in their area. So that's kind of where we are at right now as we're looking in the future. We're constantly working on the day-to-day enhancements, but that's the vision for now.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. So as Nitin mentioned, ATN is rightly set to enhance automation for even more judgment-based complicated tasks. Thank you so much for such an insightful session. That brings us to the last segment of today's fireside chat, the Q&A session. I'm sure our attendees have a lot of questions for our panel. Let us look at those. So as I go through them, here is the first question that I see, and this is for you, Nitin. How should organizations think in terms of starting their RPA journey, and what business outcomes should they be striving for?
From a journey perspective, I'll use a similar philosophy for most transformations. You gotta have the right mix of people, process, and technology. That gets said in most of these conversations, but in RPA's case, I think we need to have good business metrics in place as well. So a combination of people, process, technology, and aligned business metrics, I would say, are the most important pillars to embark on an RPA journey. From an outcome perspective, keep the end in mind. What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to take cost out? Are we trying to put more automation, trying to get some hours back on the staff? Whatever those outcomes are, keep those front and center as folks try to embark on an RPA journey.
Sure. So while I scroll through, I see there's another question that has popped up. Kelly, would you like to take this? How quickly can RPA streamline the compliance framework?
That's a great question, and one that I get often, actually. The timeline for any RPA process depends on the complexity of the process. Understanding the process, especially if it's complicated, takes a bit of time to convey and understand for the programmer. As Nitin shared earlier, ATN is a bit unique in its structure. So we have moved, I think, slowly using RPA for compliance. But just to give you an idea, in the last 11 months, we've automated 14 compliance processes with one additional process in line for deployment. These processes have essentially helped us stay compliant with our audit controls and have relieved staff of some mundane tasks. And since the tasks have freed up time, we're able to look at other areas where automation would be beneficial in remediating deficiencies or remaining compliance in other areas.
Thank you for answering that. So I see there's another question that has just come in. Can Moritech help clients with RPA COE design, including operating and governance model? Over to you, Mayuri. This is for you.
Of course. Yeah, surely. So Moritech's robotic process automation services enables enterprises to accelerate performance, deliver real value, and improve ROI. I'm sure Kelly and Nitin have vouched for the same, talking about varied kinds of success stories and the insights that they have shared. Our end-to-end RPA services range from assessment, design, setting up the RPA COE, strategy to RPA implementation, and also support in improvising the productivity. We also achieve operational outcomes by reducing the mundane, repetitive manual tasks. We basically support in applying RPA solutions to drive the business value, allowing the companies to be efficient and transform themselves into an automated enterprise. Our cutting-edge RPA services include the upcoming DCAP, Smart Eye, and other artificial intelligence related comprehensive set of services, which will enable the unified capabilities for business process automation, delivering a strong service offering. We offer RPA consulting to understand the automation readiness assessment and reviews. We create roadmaps by identifying and selecting the high priority automation candidates. We implement development of end-to-end RPA roadmaps. We define and formalize the RPA governance and change management frameworks. We set up center of excellence and the target operating models. We also focus on security aspects of the overall compliance. And not only these, we basically have the factory model implementation that enables the quick turnaround turnkey solutions. And also we support the setting up the ROCs, which is Robotic Operation Center for hypercare post-production. So all in all, I can summarize, we basically have the services that run through the entire life cycle of RPA.
Thank you for answering that. So while I scroll through, I see there's another question and it's a bit lengthy. So let me just read it out. So let's say if any of the process shortlisted or automated was not meant to be automated in terms of ROI. So do we go back to the manual process, or what approach can we use in such cases? Whom should I, Nitin, will you go for this?
Yeah, it's a tricky one for sure. I would say if once the process is, once you're attempting to automate a process and you need to go back to the manual, there is more than likely a case where you need a process restructuring. That's at least what comes to mind right away. And see if there is an opportunity to restructure the process itself.
Yeah, let me add more to that, Nitin. So even before attempting to automate any particular process, we have something which is called as business process management. So we do the pre-discovery and discovery phase to understand the requirement first and then attempt into automation. So we consider a couple of aspects when we do the discovery phase, whether the process is completely automatable or not, whether it is digitized in nature, what kind of efforts are taken into consideration when it is done manually. And we also do an assessment of ROI that can be reaped post-automation. So considering the manual efforts and considering what would be the outcome post-automation, there is a specific set of compliance that will be taking place before attempting the automation. So as Nitin rightly quoted, there is likely to be a chance wherein we go back to the manual process. All these kinds of analysis and the discussion would be happening before attempting the automation and not post automating. So that's a very unusual scenario. Maybe I can talk about. Kelly, do you want to add more here?
I can actually think of one process that it takes the robot longer than it took a human, but that's also time that the human doesn't have to process that task. Yeah. The robot can do that. So it does save the human time in the end.
Sure.
Certainly.
Thank you very much, Nitin, Kelly, and Mayuri, for those insightful answers to the attendee questions. We tried answering most of the questions, but still you can reach out to us at inquiry@moritech.com for further details. Also, you will find our LinkedIn page in the chat box. Do like the page and stay updated. Thank you so much for joining us today and attending today's session. We shall respond to all the unanswered questions within 2 to 3 working days. Meanwhile, I would request you all to take a moment and fill out the feedback form. We are always focused on getting better. Your feedback does